Well, hello everyone, and welcome to chapter 13 of my video book, Gloria, the Story of a Woman. And there's my little dog. There's a pool guy outside cleaning the pool. And of course, she has to bark at every little second. So just, if I can keep her quiet, just endure her, please. Anyway, left off last week where the bank, where I had started my alcohol addiction. Now, at this time, I'd only started drinking. I remember I drank Cold Duck. And I don't know if any of y'all know anything about Cold Duck, but Cold Duck was a strong, I don't know if it was a wine or what, but it was strong. I know it was crazy that you drank a glass of it and you were absolutely gone. Now, you got to remember something. At these parties on Friday night, which they were parties, all the bank employees were there. Not their husbands, not their wives, just bank employees. Now, you also got to remember that the major portion of the male population in the bank, or the population in the bank, was male. The women worked, lower levels. We were tellers and run the bookkeeping and all of that. But the loan officers and all, the controller and all that was definitely male. Now, they were all there at the party. And also, another group of people that came to the parties was the directors of the bank. Now, that was another one of my undoings, let's say, because all of us got together in the back of the bank with all of this booze. I mean, booze was everywhere. That was the main objective of the person or the people that brought it in, was booze. And anything that you wanted to drink was there. Well, of course, I had my Cold Duck. So I am there one evening, and Nancy Reardon, who was the secretary to the president, she was a young single mom that very professional, very sweet girl, loved her dearly, saved my life many times, believe it or not, was always there. And she happened to have met one of the directors. He was an older man. And I'll never forget it. She kept it secret, even from me, for quite a while, that there was something going on between these two. Now, the director was married. They were all married. Every one of them. And all the guys that were in the bank, they were all married. But that did not matter. You got to understand, that did not matter back then. It was a free-for-all. So anyway, she had started up this deal with this guy, one of the directors, who had lots of money. Now, Nancy was a single parent. And once again, a very sweet person. She ended up, believe it or not, marrying this guy and was married to him, might still be married to him today. I do not know. But I know that it was a very hush-hush deal. She didn't even tell me. And at the same time, when he walks in, here comes another one of the directors. And this was none other than a guy by the name of Harland Adams, who was the grandson of Colonel Sanders of Kentucky Fried Chicken. Kentucky Fried Chicken's main operation was there in North Miami at an office where they did their banking in Second National Bank of North Miami. So that meant that they had a lot of money coming into the bank. And, of course, the president, Al Slabusky, he was throw the red carpet down. So one evening, here comes this guy that Nancy was seeing. And in tow, he had Harland Adams. Well, I went crazy, absolutely crazy. He was nice looking, very nice looking. We hit it off in the very beginning, and eventually he started coming in, and I was in charge of opening CDs. I was open the CDs and I would redeem them. That was my job. Kept them in balance and everything. Well, he started opening CDs in the bank. And of course, when he walked through the door, our eyes met, and oh my gosh, it was just electricity from the get-go. And I have to say that it was a wild and crazy time. I don't want to go into too much detail, but I can tell you this. He left his wife for me and wanted to marry me. And I was so far along in my addiction that nothing mattered except my addiction at that time. And I very nicely said no to him. But it was quite an affair for quite a long time that we had. And he eventually went on and married someone else. I called him while he was on his honeymoon. He left his wife, his new wife, who he was on his honeymoon with, and came back to Miami to see me. And once again, I rejected him. So that was the love story that I had with, once again, the guy who inherited Kentucky Fried Chicken. And it was, once again, it was a crazy time. There wasn't, when you drink and do drugs, you don't really think, you don't really consider other people's feelings, you don't consider their emotions. It was a time in Miami when everything was crazy. And when I tell you crazy, I am not exaggerating. Half the people in the States at that time were teetotalers. The other half was anything goes. Absolutely anything goes. I remember one time I went out on Arlen's boat, and I came in and I went home, and Nancy had come and brought me a bag full of gifts. It was around Christmas time. She brought me a bag full of gifts that was wrapped in a big bag to give to me so that I walked in the house that I could say, well, I've been shopping with Nancy. And this was the craziness that we lived at that time. And I was not the only one, trust me. Definitely not. My husband was off and doing crazy things, dealing drugs at the same time. He was not an angel. So it was working against both of us in our marriage, unfortunately. And it was something that was not, I'm certainly not proud of it today, but it is a part of my story that I feel has to be told to show how I got to where I am today. So all of this was learning, a learning factor. And the drugs and alcohol got even crazier. This was just the beginning of it. The deal in the bank was just the beginning, because I had not even started doing cocaine at that time. I remember my husband would go to a pharmacist, and he started getting these things called soapers. And they were kind of like Quaaludes and hydrocodone or whatever is out there today. I have no idea. I'm not into the drug scene today at all, so I do not know. I know that they were downers. And he would bring those home, and we would take them, and that's what we did. That's exactly what we did. He drank, and then, of course, I started drinking. Along with him, I drank wine. We'd go out to dinner and have a carafe of wine. Well, it'd be finished way before we even ordered the meal, and we'd order another carafe and have a few soapers. And by the time the meal was over, heck, we were as high as kites, and then we were out on the town. We were out we were partying. And this deal about used to that we would stay out all night and party, go home, change clothes, and go to work, that was pretty much true. Yeah, we did that. We did that many times, absolutely. And as I said, not anything that I'm proud of, but it's part of my life. It is part of who I am today. And it took all of this in order for me to find the Gloria that I am today. Because without all of that learning process, without all of that struggle, I would still probably be sitting in a bar somewhere with my legs crossed, an old 80-something-year-old woman drinking wine and laughing and carrying on with a bunch of alcoholics at my age. Absolutely. there's no doubt in my mind that's where I would be today. But I had sense enough to understand, even back in the 80s, the early 80s. Now remember, I went through all the 70s, which was good 10 years, 12 years of an addiction, of a terrible addiction, me and my husband, and until early 80s, which there was no internet. I think they had started the Betty Ford Clinic for people, but you had to be an almost millionaire in order to go to any of those places. I went to an AA meeting, and there were more drugs in the AA meeting than there was out on the streets. You could get anything there. So that was out for me. So I had to learn how to become sober and stay sober pretty much on my own. I had no internet to go to. I had no Google to research. I had no place. If I called a place, the first thing they asked me was, do you have insurance? Well, no, I didn't have insurance. I had no insurance. I had nothing, because after the bank, I quit working and did not work for a long time due to my addiction being so bad, unfortunately. So all of this is part of my life that, once again, I share with people to tell you that you have choices. I had a choice of getting sober or staying drunk and on drugs. And I chose getting sober because I knew the path down that road of doing drugs and alcohol, that I was either going to die myself or I was going to kill somebody else driving or something. No doubt in my mind. So that day that I made that fateful decision of getting clean and sober was my choice. I knew it wasn't going to be easy, and I still, to this day, I will sit here to this day and say one of the hardest things that I have ever done in my life is to get clean and sober and stay clean and sober. That's the hardest thing. And y'all know that I have buried both of my children. But you got to remember, when I buried my children when they were sick and dying, I had a clear mind. My mind was not all caught up in drugs and alcohol. So I was able to think. I was able to compartmentalize. I was able to decipher. I was able to make choices. And I remember after my son died, the hospice nurse came and said, Gloria, do you want me to give you something, to help you sleep for your nerves? And I said, absolutely not. I'm okay. I can do this. I will do this. So I want people to understand that you have choices. This choice had better be made for you. No one else but you and that person in the mirror. And if you want something bad enough, you're going to get it. I wanted to be clean and sober. And it took me almost 4 years to get clean and sober. I quit drinking thinking my problems were over, and 2 years later, I ended up overdosed on Quaaludes in the hospital with my liver a mess. Checked myself out of the hospital when they wanted to do a biopsy. Checked myself out of the hospital when I ran out of cocaine, walked out, and it still took me 2 years after that. So it took me almost 5 years to get clean and sober from everything, and finally realizing that everything was a problem. Not just the drinking, not just the pills, not just the cocaine, but it was all a part of my problem that I had to quit, give up, walk away from, and say no more. And I did in 1982. And I've never taken another drink. I have taken a pill, a vitamin, things like that. I also have taken something for pain all through that time, maybe one or two, or, prescription given by a doctor for whatever reason. But I've never done another line of cocaine. And that is my one goal in life, is to stay clean and sober for the rest of my life, because I wouldn't trade it for anything. And to this day, I can still go back in that time and I can relive it, and it is horrible. So this is what we're going to get into, is what I've done and how I lived, the life that I lived during those times of being addicted. And starting at the bank started it. And my affair with Harlan Adams was a part of the beginning of something. And as I said, even with Harlan, I probably could have had a really good life with him because he would have given me anything that I wanted. He wanted to take me to Aspen. No, I don't want to go to Aspen because I'd leave Miami and couldn't get to my drugs and alcohol. So I didn't go to Aspen with him. So this is the beginning. So stay tuned. Hit that subscribe button. Come back next week. Chapter, 14? And once again, it's just a wild and crazy ride that I'm going to take you on. But it's also going to show you that the perseverance of a human being and what a human being can really accomplish in their lives if they really want to and if they choose to do so. So y'all come back next week now. Y'all know I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.